due arrivi, bello questo finale per loro. Pettorale 10, pettorale 9, l'arrivo dello sloveno Clemen Sparring e poi il norvegese Hans Ingle Klette.
Vediamo di vedere gli inserimenti di Hans Ingle Klette, ricordiamo ha fatto molto bene Ida Valdar, quarta, sua compagna di squadra. Pettorale numero 9 per la Norvegia e si inserisce in seconda posizione Hans Ingle Klette 6:19,74, dicevamo una bella squadra Hans Ingle Klette e Ida Valdal per la Norvegia, second place for Hans Ingle Klette Norway 6:19,74 e mancheranno gli ultimi 8, migliori 8.
Esatto, quindi siamo quasi agli sgoccioli per quanto riguarda naturalmente le qualifiche alla maschile e poi ricordiamo 10:30 al via, finale B. Alle 8 sull'arrivo il polacco Jan e la Trocchi. E intanto eccoci qui, abbiamo l'arrivo di Nicola Canchini. Oh, miglior tempo per lui, 6 minuti e 16. Bormio, facciamoci sentire, bravo Galla!
Grandissimo Gall, 6, 16 e 33. Distacco di 10 secondi da microboscati, 6,26,80. Dovrebbe essere fatta per la squadra Murata Canclini. Pettorale 7 della Cina con Jiang Mingliu. Poi Germania che non ha problemi a qualificarsi, Paller Finn Usch. Quindi tutto dovrebbe essere più o meno deciso con Fabio Giniat Almasso che è piuttosto indietro, quindi probabilmente è stato deciso dalla squadra francese che sarebbe andata avanti, la squadra di Emily Harrop e di Bonselme. E quindi Canclini, Briley, Klette, Usch, Smith, Boscacci, Fu, Ferrer, Galindo, Radua, Missa, Claire, Robson.
Quindi abbiamo gli ultimi atleti in gara, li attendiamo naturalmente qua sulla finish line e poi da quel momento andremo a capire quali saranno le conformazioni delle due finali, finale B, finale A.
Paul Berniak per l'Austria, Johanna Kim in sesta posizione a livello femminile. Pettorale 4 di Paul Berniak. Inserisce in 13ª posizione l'austriaco, ancora tre atleti Thibon Selmier, Romain Bussard e Oriol Cardona.
L'arrivo del francese Thibon Selmier.
The last two waiting for them, Romain Bussard and Oriol Cardona. Thibon Selmier 11º. Romain Bussard, tra i due che arriva in questo momento. In seconda posizione, bravissimo Romain, deuxième place pour Romain Bussard, 6,16,85, vicinissimo al tempo di Nicolò Canclini. Miglior tempo delle donne 7,25,09, quello di Tove Alexanderson, 6,16,33 al momento quello di Gall, Nicolò Canclini, ancora Oriol Cardona che scende senza problemi, qualificati Luian Alonso.
E allora eccoci con l'arrivo di Oriol Cardona, lo spagnolo.
Settimo Oriol Cardona con l'ultimo tempo quindi 6:23:64. Everything is done, the arrival of Oriol Cardona. Le prove intanto con prova partenza con la nostra pistola elettronica e quindi prima parte di mattinata che se ne va, 10 in punto in questo momento, abbiamo finito precisi, puntualistici svizzeri come sono i cronometristi naturalmente. MSO, Swiss Time, Omega, Longines, quindi sono tutto nel circuito. Allora avremo un attimino di musica, poi avremo un bel video, poi qualche intervista e poi saremo di nuovo presenti a partire dalle 10:30 con la finale B.
Esatto, ore 10:30 al via della finale B e quindi le posizioni dal 13° al 24° posto, due nazioni rappresentate massimo per questa finale, quindi sale l'emozione di questi 2 giorni davvero meravigliosa qui sulla pista Stelvio, qui a Bormio per questo festival in vista naturalmente delle Olimpiadi, 361 giorni a questo appuntamento a 5 cerchi dove lo SkiMo farà il suo ingresso trionfale proprio in questi 2 giorni, il test qui alla pista Stelvio. Allora abbiamo fra pochi istanti quello che sarà un video highlights della gara di ieri, della sprint race di ieri, ma godiamoci anche questo momento, questo bellissimo momento in cui gli atleti stanno concentrati e naturalmente rimettendo un attimino insieme quella che è i pezzi, come si vuol dire, quindi 10:30 ricordiamo il via della finale B.
Here we are, so we will have now a short break. We will have first video on the wide screen, then we will have some interviews, music, and then we will be back at 10:30 with the final B, 11:20 final A, and finally we will have a podium, flower, and awarding ceremony.
Bene, bene, allora ricordiamo 10:30 avremo il via di quella che è la finale B e quindi le posizioni dal 13 al 24, sono stati 62 le coppie al via sia per la categoria maschile e femminile in questo guest event SkiMo qui sulle nevi della pista Stelvio. Io intanto saluto, vedo al parterre il sindaco di Bormio, Silvia Cavazzi, il presidente di Fondazione Bormio, Matteo Bonfà. Buongiorno e ben arrivati e grazie naturalmente, grazie.
Bormio once more sets the stage for the third mixed relay of the ISMF World Cup 2025 season, tucked up in the far north of Italy and on the world famous Stelvio slope. This is not only a World Cup event today, but the first ever Olympic mixed relay test event for Milano Cortina 2026. Yesterday saw a very, very successful start to the test event weekend with the sprint race, and both yesterday's winners, Emily Harper France and Oriol Cardona Coll of Spain, will be in full battle mode to make it a double today. I'm Katie Friend, and I'll be joined in a moment by Mireia Miro, and we are going to be bringing you all the action today from Bormio in Italy. We are in the upper Valtellina Valley in Lombardy, very, very close to the Swiss border, and it is a regular stop on the Ski World Cup circuit, usually with a men's downhill sometime in September. Preparations are afoot here, and Bormio has seen a Youth World Cup in 2024, but this is the first time for a Senior World Cup, certainly in what we might call the modern era of ski mountaineering. And it has been a great start, as I say. You can see the teams are warming up here. The other thing that Bormio is extremely famous for is its cycling when there is a little less snow. Famous passes of the Stelvio, the Gavia, and the short but very brutal Mortirolo. We got a great insight into what the sprint course will look like in just under a year's time yesterday, and today it is the turn of the mixed relay, and you can see athletes preparing, officials getting together there to just make sure everything is ready to rock and roll. Good morning, Mireia. How are you? With me, Mireia Miro, two-time world champion, member of the Spanish team from 2006 to 2018. How are you?
Good morning. Doing really well. Really excited to see what the athletes bring us today.
Indeed. And we saw a really beautiful looking course yesterday, and the weather is very similar today, -3, and the sun was not quite out when the qualification started. It looks like it's trying its absolute best right now, but probably quite ideal racing conditions, I would say.
Yes, totally. The conditions look perfect. The weather is perfect. Good temperature for a ski mountaineering race. I think that the athletes are very lucky to have these conditions today here, and we'll have a spectacular day.
Indeed, and 135 meters of vertical today for the athletes, 80 meters up plus another 35, 10 on the steps and another 10 at the top of that, incorporating yesterday's sprint course. Starting altitude is 1,215 meters and up to 1,295 is the highest point. 1.31 kilometers worth of racing. We'll talk a bit later on about how, despite the fact this looks a little bit like a sprint, it's really quite a different animal. Here we have the World Cup rankings for the nations. This is getting exciting because we are in an Olympic qualifying year, and so we can see at the moment Spain just ahead of Switzerland, with France, Austria, Italy and Germany, China, Poland, Norway and Slovenia making up the top 10. A lot of what we might expect, the sort of traditional, more established nations up near the top there, but really, really exciting with Olympic qualification underway to see some less well-known, less established nations really starting to come through. And it is an Olympic qualifying year, Mireia, and the pressure is on.
Yes, totally. There's so things are starting to get serious. This year are the qualifications for the Olympics, or the qualifications are starting, so things are starting to get really serious.
Indeed. And what we might expect, look how beautiful it is here in Bormio, absolutely stunning, very, very beautiful part of Lombardy. And as we get a quick explanation of the mixed relay, if you haven't seen it before, it's teams of one man and one woman from the same country competing together. The female athlete always starts first, and each athlete does 2 ascents, 2 descents and a foot part included in the uphill. Lots of transitions involved in a relay, and they tag their teammate with their skins on, and they have to touch a part of their body or their backpack. The male athletes always do the last lap. Each lap takes around about, well, it has traditionally been about 7 to 10 minutes, but today we're looking at about 6 to 7 minutes, meaning around about sort of half an hour to 40 minutes worth of racing. As I was saying there, Mireia, very fast. It's got faster and faster. The mixed relay has only been in competition for this third or fourth season, but they're just getting faster and faster, these athletes.
Yes, sure. So I think that the level is increasing, the performances are increasing as it's a very new discipline on itself. It's been 3 years now. I think that we will see better and better performances on the upcoming years.
And there we can see the setup here in Bormio. Each team has a tent. Some of them are shared, some of the smaller teams are sharing a tent. The warming up on the bikes, we've mentioned it before, but first brought in by the Swiss, and everybody had their eyes out on organ stops, as they say in English, at this very exciting innovation, but seems like many, many teams have it now. Look at this course, Mireia, absolutely beautiful. We've seen the quality of the courses really go up in the last few seasons.
It's stunning. It's every time I see this slope, how they have worked, how the work that they've put on these slopes to prepare the sprint yesterday and the relay today, it's just so stunning. It's incredible. It looks so beautiful.
It really, really does. And of course, yesterday we heard that Emily Hart, when she was interviewed, saying, that's it, we've seen the course now. This will be the same today. This will be the course that is set. And what is extraordinary is that the alpine skiing will be on the same slope a few days before in the Olympics, and they will have to work very, very hard to then turn it into a ski mountaineering course, but they will have seen it by the end of today.
Yeah, that's super important. I think that for an athlete, being able to not only see where the race will take place, but race on it, it gives a super good perspective on how to manage the efforts. And I'm sure that next year here on the Olympics, we'll see even better timings than this year, because they know already the track. They will prepare for it more specifically, and we will see better performances.
Indeed. And today we had 124 athletes on the start line. Here is what we have ended up with. Start list, final B is Alberto Silvestro, Michele Boscacci for Italy, alongside Celia Perepese and Pablo Giner, Caroline Ulrich and Thomas Bussard for Switzerland, Naomi Junot and Herbert de Bortolis for Italy, Ria Kobel and Clement Spanring for Slovenia, Mariana Jagicova for Jakub Sianik for Slovakia, Thomas Bussard and Caroline Ulrich for Switzerland, Sarah Dreyer, Andreas Meyer from Austria, that's Sarah Dreyer there, Hailey Heffman and David Sinclair from the United States, Eugene Lamu and Chenjiao Zhang for China, Griffin Briley and Kelly Wolf for the United States. Tell me, Mireia, talk us through a little bit about the qualifications this morning.
Well, so we see more and more participation in the qualifications, more and more teams. So it has been a very competitive qualification. We see here that on the final B, we find some teams that could be perfectly on the final A. We have even missed some teams that usually are on the final B. So we see that the level is increasing competition after competition. And here on the final B, we will have an amazing battle. We have Thomas Bussard and Caroline Ulrich that won the last World Cup relay on the final A. We have Celia Perillat and Pablo Giner that are very, very used also to be on final A's, or Michele Boscacci and Alba de Silvestro also. So everything has been quite close in terms of times, and performance on final B is also super guaranteed.
Because what we have to remind ourselves is that in the final A, we can only have one team per country. That is all is allowed, so it gives a really wide spread of nations, those that are more experienced, some that are just getting a bit more used to this, or, you know, all of these are amazing. But final B, they're allowed 2 per country, and here we are on the start line. In front of us there, we have Sarah Dreyer of Austria. Next to her, Caroline Ulrich. In the middle there, in the black helmet and the blue uniform, Alba de Silvestro of Italy. Célia Perrier-Pessé, Noémie Junot, and the Chinese Suling Zhujiang.
Thank you, Mark.
And away they go. This is final B. We are here in Bormio. It is the Olympic test event, and this is the final B. Let's remind ourselves that 2 athletes, 1 male, 1 female. The women always start first, and this is them, and they are off. And here we have in front of us Suling Zhujiang of China, Célia Perrier-Pessé, and Caroline Ulrich of France and Switzerland, respectively. Mireia, a fast start there.
Yes, and even more thinking that it's a 8 minute race. They will have to do 2 uphills and 2 downhills, and then this is 1 lap, but then they'll have to do a second lap. So they did a pretty fast start, knowing what is coming, that they have a long effort in front of them.
Indeed. And it looks like Célia Perrier-Pessé, they're just peeking ahead. But it's really neck and neck with Suling Zhujiang and Caroline Ulrich.
In questo momento il primo giro per loro, poi naturalmente andranno nel cambio al proprio compagno di questa staffetta mista finale B.
Caroline Ulrich, that yesterday she did a podium on the sprint race. On the last World Cup, she won the relay race, the final A. So it's strange to see her here on final B, but at the end it also talks about the high level that there is now in ski mountaineering.
Indeed, and I mean, last time we were in Boitaoul, we saw Emily Harrop in a final B. So it's, you know, as you said then, it's really good to see the quality of both the finals, so you can really see some excellent athletes battling it out in their own final, regardless of whether we know that they could actually be in the A final. And here we see the Chinese athlete taking a bit of a lead here, ahead of Célia Perrier-Pessé and Caroline Ulrich.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for these athletes to make their best on the final B, because as we say, we are on an Olympic qualifying year, so teams have to be decided, or they have still to be decided for next year, so they have to give their every best on every race, being it final B or final A.
Indeed, and the graphics there telling us that indeed it is Suling Zhujiang of China, but Célia Perrier-Pessé almost step for step with her. Behind them we have Caroline Ulrich, and I think that's Sarah Dreyer. I can tell by the way she moves her head. I could be wrong though. And they come up to the first transition. Caroline Ulrich getting a good spot in transition there. Perhaps a bit of a strategic error there, a tactical error there from the Chinese athlete. Look, she's ready, but she can't get through. And that is a little bit possibly where the sort of experience comes in. We've said this many times before, you can be as fit as you like, but actually when it comes to the experience of these transitions, where to position yourself in the transition zone, these things all matter, don't they?
Yes, totally. So it's not only pushing, it's a very technical sport. It's a very technical with all the transitions, the downhill, the uphill. So it's not about just pushing in the uphill, and all these transitions are key if you want to do a good time and a good position. Managing the transitions is as important as managing the uphills or the downhills.
And here we see a little bit of a change around. We've seen Célia Perrier-Pessé and Alba Di Silvestro, because I wouldn't want to be up against Alba Di Silvestro on a downhill. I've said it before, I will probably say it again. And she heads off first, leading Célia Perrier-Pessé, because that is another area in which we saw there quite a lot of juggling. We saw it actually quite a lot in the sprint yesterday as well, where if you just don't have that confidence and you've got a really strong skier coming, it can make all the difference.
Yes, yes, totally. And Alba de Silvestro is a very veteran athlete. She manages very well the efforts, the uphills, the downhills. So it's a very dangerous athlete to have around.
Pictures of the diamonds, the sprint race of yesterday.
Indeed. And Alba de Silvestro back after a few weeks off. She's been very ill and seems to come back with a vengeance. She had her highest ever placing in the sprint race yesterday. Fantastic to see her in that final. And she is back. Celia Perrier-Pessé putting a little bit of a jog on. What was it they used to call it? A Wernern, after Werner Marti, who was the first to sort of really start that jogging up the hill, as Celia Perrier-Pessé puts on a bit of a boost to get ahead of Alba de Silvestro in the blue and Caroline Ulrich in red there, coming up behind her. Also very nice to see Mariana Gichikova back on the slopes. Do you know that the last mixed relay we had in Boitaolo was the first one that she has not competed in? She has probably the most experience of every single athlete out there today in terms of mixed relay. The gap's opening up here, Mireia.
Yes, so Celia is opening a bit of gap here on the foot part. Caroline Ulrich is managing the gap. I'm very amazed by Caroline Ulrich. Her performances this year have been amazing. She was also very strong, like U20, and it shouldn't surprise me that much, but she's very consistent, which is difficult to find in young athletes, this consistency that Caroline has. So Celia is leading, but Caroline is just behind her. There's going to be a beautiful battle between these both teams to try to take the win here on the relay.
And Celia Perrier-Pessé will be wanting to give her teammate a little bit of a boost, because her teammate Pablo Giner is a little bit less experienced than Caroline Ulrich's teammate Thomas Bussard, I would suggest. Here they have got a clear gap, the first two women, as they come down to the final transition. Well, this is a very unusual, well, it's not unusual, but perhaps one we haven't seen before. There's a very distinct 90-degree turn after this. Do you see that? They're going to have to turn sharp right to go to the transition zone. There we go. Celia Perrier-Pessé handing over to Pablo Giner. Caroline Ulrich to her teammate, her winning teammate from Boitaol, Thomas Bussard.
Michele Boscacci parte in questo istante, Jakub Stjarnik, e poi si prepara la squadra cinese, Austria. Poi sarà la terza.
I think we are seeing now on screen Pablo Giner. He has done really good relays this season also. He's very strong, so let's see if he can maintain this little gap that Celia has given him.
Indeed. And Michele Boscacci has taken off in third place. There he goes. No, beg your pardon, that wasn't him. He's already long gone. It's Herman de Bortilis. Pablo Giner, a nice steady rhythm there as he heads up in current first place, but Thomas Bussard is not far behind. So at the first handover there, it was Pablo Giner ahead of Thomas Bussard, Michele Boscacci, Jakub Siarnik for Slovakia, Champion Yu of China, Andy Meyer of Austria, Herman de Bertolis, and Zhenjiao Zhan of China. You can see by the shadows there that Thomas Bussard is closing on Pablo Giner.
Yes, Thomas Bussard, he's very strong on the relay races. Maybe not so a little bit less on the sprints if we compare, but on the relays he's very, very strong. He won last weekend with Caroline Ulrich. He has demonstrated it already. So it's also an athlete to have in mind for this relay race.
Yes, as they won in Boitaul at the beginning of this month. It's their second time racing together, so they've had a very successful start, and let's see how they do. This is Thomas Bussard and Caroline Ulrich I'm talking about. She has also raced with Robin Bussard, Arnaud Lieta, John Kister, Patrick Perton and Matteo Favre, while he has raced with Thibaut Descent, Marion Faton and Laura Bocchino. So the Swiss obviously doing a lot of mixing around there, but it is Pablo Giner that makes it first into transition here.
Oh, and Thomas Bussard that put the first skin faster than Pablo Giner. If he does the second one as faster as the first one, he will leave the transition first. But no, it's Pablo Giner that left first.
And has picked up a bit of a gap even.
Yeah, it seems so. It seems so. He started Thomas Bussard the very first part of the transition, but it seems that a slower second part, and Pablo Giner the other way around.
And this is actually only Pablo Giner's third mixed relay in a senior World Cup. He has had excellent training though. He's raced with Emily Harrop and Margot Ravenel, so he is well placed to know what it's like to race with some of the best.
Speciale, si chiama tipo la tasca dei canguri, dove mettono le loro pelli. Lo si vede adesso sullo schermo sia nel francese che nella tuta svizzera. C'è questa pocket, like kangaroo pocket, dove vengono messe.
And Pablo Giner that is managing to keep this little gap between him and Thomas Bussard. He's fighting for this. He knows that if he allows Thomas to get him too close to him, for Thomas it will be easier, as it's a bit of a motivation boost. So he's trying to maintain this little gap between the both of them, as he knows that is super important, not only on the physical part, but also on the mental side.
Because that's often a lot about this. It's just seeing it's the mental side, and we'll have a good old chat in between races about the sort of the bigger picture of the relay, but there is so much involved because there is such a gap between the best and the least experienced in these races that often they find themselves in a bit of a battle with their heads. But here we are, Pablo Giner heading to the top of this summit.
Ieri sera guardavo un momento di una partita di pallavolo, anche lì c'è il VAR per vedere i palloni vanno talmente a una
keeping a good gap, as you say there, with Thomas Bussard, who is not somebody that you should take lightly in a race like this.
Totally. Pablo Giner is managing really well this lap and this gap that he has with Thomas Bussard, and knowing that Thomas is very experienced, and even if he's very young, because he's very young, he's very experienced. So this is a beautiful battle that they are offering us.
And we can see there that Michele Boscacci has dropped to 27 seconds behind Pablo Giner. So the first two have created quite a good gap between themselves and the rest of the field. I'll be interested to see how they manage this sharp 90-degree turn as the race goes on. Is it better to be right close in to do a very sharp turn? Is it better to be slightly out? Will remain to be seen. But Pablo Giner looking so strong. Hands back over to Celia Pese, and he is done for the moment. very, very fast
Michele Boscacci.
times as
Michele Boscacci
Caroline Ulrich
sta
takes off
rimettendo
up the
le
hill,
pelli
and
sotto lo sci,
Alba Di
si
Silvestro
aggancia lo
gets into the
scarpone,
transition zone to wait for
viene
Michele Boscacci
estratta
to
la
join
pelle
her.
dalla tasca, rimesso
Not
lo
only
sci secondo
teammates,
sci,
but
prima
husband and
prestazione,
wife,
e voilà.
which must
Alba
make
è
for
già
a great
pronta per
team dynamic.
partire in questo suo
Here he
secondo ed
comes.
ultimo giro. Abbiamo poi Austria e con il pettorale numero
I have to say, if you'd
12
asked me a
la
few years
Slovacchia.
ago if I would see these pair in
30
such a
secondi
successful
il gap
mixed relay
tra
discipline,
Francia e
not
Italia in terza
as a pair, they're very
posizione,
successful
11 tra
individually
Francia
and
e
together,
Svizzera.
but I would never have thought of them because they're both such big, high mountain, incredible athletes, have won nearly all the biggest and the most technical and difficult long races in the world. But really exciting to see their development here.
Her second and last lap, and then we will have Sarah Dreyer. Andy Meyer is coming now.
Mariana
E poi
Jigachikova
abbiamo Herman De Bertoli che darà il
of
cambio a
Slovakia.
Noemi Junot, la seconda squadra azzurra. Sesta posizione con un distacco di 1,17 per la seconda squadra azzurra, composta da Noemi Junot in gara in questo istante e Herman De Bertolis.
There we have Célia Pierre-Pessé with a gap between her and Caroline Ulrich of Switzerland.
Ultime squadre che arrivano nella zona di handover.
This is the B final
Secondo e
here in
ultimo giro
Bormio.
per le
It's
donne,
the
second
very
last
first
lap
mixed
for
relay
girls that
Olympic
are
test
going
event
up on the first up
for
hill.
Milano
You can
Cortina
see the corridors
2026. We are less than a
between,
year away
the two set of nets.
from being back here with our
Great
fully
job
fledged
done by the
Olympians
local organizing
chomping
committee,
at the bit
Fondazione Milano
to get on the
Cortina,
start line.
together with the many volunteers.
Intanto è
along the
importante,
track and the
scusa
course.
Cristina,
Sì.
non sbagliare perché l'atleta americano è arrivato in finish line, invece c'è naturalmente
Esatto.
da fare quello che è il cambio, quindi bisogna stare attenti anche a questo, non sbagliare strada.
No, non sbagliare strada, no. Parlando
At
di
the
sbagliare
last handover,
strada,
it was
adesso
Célia
mi viene in mente,
Pierre-Pessé
non so se
ahead of
l'hai
Caroline
visto, si parla
Ulrich
di un altro sport
with
completamente
Alba Di Silvestro,
diverso, il ciclismo.
but
C'era la gara
30
in
seconds
Portogallo
behind
dell'Algarve,
Mariana Jigachikova of
dove
Slovakia
poco
in
prima
fourth,
dell'arrivo
Sarah Dreyer of
il
Austria
a una
in fifth,
rotonda,
and Naomi
la ragazza
Junot
probabilmente
of
indicato
Italy,
bene, il
followed
grosso
by
del
Hilly
gruppone di destra è
Hafman,
andato dalla parte sbagliata,
Soulan
dall'altra
Toujane,
parte invece
Luna
sono andati
Dupont,
giusti, tra l'altro
Joujane
proprio Filippo
Lamu,
Ganna, che ha
Kelly Wolf
vinto
and Ria
questa
Kobo.
gara, che poi però è stata annullata per problemi di percorso.
Célia
Quindi diciamo che
Pierre-Pessé that
sbagliare percorsi
she's in
non
amazing shape
soltanto nell'alpinismo,
today
ma anche in molti
on the
altri
qualifying
sport.
time. I think she did the third fastest time, and now she's keeping even increasing the gap between her and Caroline Ulrich. Caroline Ulrich that on the first lap she was very close to Celia and she tried to be there with her, but now Celia is opening a bit more and more gap. Celia is also a very good, a very strong athlete for relay races. She has a profile that she's very strong for this kind of races.
Yeah, it was a very big surprise not to see her in the top 18 of the sprint yesterday. Very, very strong athlete indeed, but she did go on to be second in it was a slightly different format to the sprint yesterday. She went on to be second in the B final, if you like. And as you say, the gap opening up here, now 14 seconds between Célia Pierre-Pessé and Caroline Ulrich, and well over 30 seconds back to Alba Di Silvestro of Italy.
Va bene nelle sprint, va bene nelle vertical, va bene nelle individual, anche nelle mixed relay, quindi sicuramente sono le atlete.
And Christine that is saying that Celia is a very strong athlete all around. She's very strong on the individual, she's very strong on the relay, she's very strong on the vertical, and it's a very complete athlete, Celia. I really like these kind of athletes that are very complete and can perform on different disciplines. I also like the ones that perform really well on only one, but these athletes that perform very well on different disciplines always amaze me how they manage to do that.
It is extraordinary because you sometimes see that they've won, for example, Alba Di Silvestro, she has won so many of the great big the big races like the Patrouille des Glaciers and all of the sort of Transcavallo and all these things, and yet is now proving that she can be a sprint athlete and mixed relay athlete. So it is really very impressive indeed. A small shortening of the gap there, a second or so that Caroline Ulrich has picked up on Celia Piriapese, but a good lead there still, and both of them still quite far ahead of Abba Di Silvestro for Italy.
We were seeing that the gap is 14 seconds, which on a relay race, it's nothing and it's a lot. 14 seconds, when you see the other person in front of you, it feels like a whole wall, but at the same time, 14 seconds with a little fall on a downhill or something that doesn't go really well, it's not that much.
Absolutely, and I'm not sure whether that is the angle of the camera, but it does look like Caroline Ulrich has picked up a bit of pace there. Definitely, she has definitely got a few extra seconds there on Celia Piriapese. These steps are a funny, they're quite deep, aren't they? And I always feel that for maybe some of the women or the shorter men, they're quite deep to get a good rhythm going.
Yes, we saw yesterday Oriol Cardona jumping 2 by 2 the steps, and for others already go 1 by 1. It seems quite a big step that they have to do.
Exactly. Celia Piriapese coming up to this summit.
They are approaching the last part of their race. Women Celia Piriapese putting the skins in the pocket. And
10 seconds. Caroline Ulrich has taken it down to 10 seconds. As you say, that can be a lifetime or it can be no time at all.
Exactly, each second is a wall, because when the other person is also feeling in shape and going strong, every second is difficult to close, but at the same time it's not that much neither, so it's always, it is and it is not.
Celia Piriapese just about finished for the day as she comes into her final transition. And opting for the middle of that transition zone. Caroline Ulrich not far behind at all.
sarà poi una bella lotta tra Pablo Giner Dannasso e Thomas Bussard, entrambi vanno molto forte nelle sprint, quindi diciamo la mix relay è leggermente più lunga. Eccolo il cambio, l'ultimo cambio tra
and Celia Piriapese has finished her race for the day, hands over to Pablo Giner to do everything he can to hang on to this fantastic joint lead. I mean, they really have been as strong as each other, I would say, in terms of keeping up this lead, as Thomas Bussard heads off in order to try and minimize the damage. Abba Di Silvestro is fumbling slightly there in that last transition as she heads in to hand over to Michele Boscacci.
Caroline Ulrich that did a little mistake on this last transition, putting skins on, and she lost a little bit of seconds. She was 10 seconds of difference to Celia on the last transition before the downhill. On the downhill, they are both really, really strong. And here on the transition, she had a little problem putting the first skin. She lost few seconds, but let's see what Thomas Bussard does now, and if he can close the gap with Pablo Giner, or it would be the French team today for winning.
Austria and Slovakia for the 4th and 5th position. Discesa anche Noemi Junot, va per la sesta posizione.
Andy Meyer waiting there. Jakob Sjarnik. As they head off, it's been quite a tight battle. We haven't managed to see much of them, but I've seen them go one in front of the other and then overtake and then back. So it's going to be exciting to see this battle for 4th place here.
Yes, and these teams, so in the case of Austria, usually on the final A, we have always Joanna Himmer and Paul Verbenack, so it's a great opportunity for these athletes to be able to race here on the final B, try to give their best, see what time they can do and be as competitive as possible.
E dal cambio in questo momento
And that looks like Thomas Bussard has overtaken Pablo Giner, if I'm not much mistaken.
Yeah, it's true.
Leaving this, just leaving it all to the end to put in a big push, but we're far from the actual end. It may seem like a fast sprint race, but as we know, this is not the same thing, and perhaps a little bit more experience, a little bit more age, and Thomas Bussard just has to not make any mistakes now and keep that very little lead. Oh, it's going to be tight. Pablo Giner won the FISU mixed relay race. That's the World University Games in Torino in January with Margot Ravenel. So he's no stranger to having a bit of pressure in a high stakes event. But it looks like Thomas Bussard will keep this lead for just a little bit.
E quindi una bella battaglia Francia-Svizzera per quanto riguarda la finale B.
How technical or otherwise is that downhill, Mireia? It's quite, you need to be quite in control of your skis, your balance.
Yes, the downhill looks really amazing. I think that that you can go to beautiful speed because the snow, like the turns allow it. They are a bit carved on the snow. Wow! And we see Pablo Giner leading in first. Thomas Bussard had a problem putting the skins on, and Pablo Giner took the opportunity to open a little gap. And we say always that in this kind of races, these short races, transitions are key. And we have seen it now that the work that Thomas did on the first uphill, like closing a 13 seconds gap, 14 seconds. Now he lost it here. For sure it's not 14 seconds, but Pablo Giner opened a bit of gap again.
Yes, he did. A bit of fumbling there. Skin's not sticking. And Pablo Giner has got a good old lead. Thomas Bussard is going to have to work extremely hard. Hopefully he didn't burn off every single ounce of energy, catching him up the last time.
Thomas Bussard is going to remember that, I think, after the race. I hope that he has enough energy, as you say, to fight this sprint until the end for this first place. But it was it was a misfortune because the skins weren't sticking good.
Pablo Giner making light work of those steps for France.
Pablo Giner, I think that he has wings now. I think that when he has seen Thomas' mistake, he has taken energy from I don't know where and have told himself, like, I have to push now as the world was ending.
Exactly, because we've talked about this briefly, but it is in the head, and that would have been a bit of a shock to him, have Thomas Bussard come past him, and then to see that just, right, okay, I have to take advantage of this mistake and crack on. And
right now he's in a really good position to win the sprint, Pablo Giner. What a turn of script we had here. It was pretty clear that Thomas Bussard was closing on Pablo Giner. He overpassed him, and now Pablo Giner took this opportunity of this mistake of Thomas Bussard, and he has a really good position now to win the sprint, the relay, sorry.
Taken a 10-second lead back and is just coming down to this final transition. No mistakes, as he is not final transition, it's the finish. I got beside myself there. Pablo Giner and Celia Pereira-Pessé take the win here in the final B, with Thomas Bussard and Caroline Ulrich coming in second. Actually, I wasn't wrong because I was expecting another transition, Mireia. That's what it was. I wasn't overexcited. I was right but wrong. Anyway, not the usual what we expect. We normally expect a last transition before the finish, but not today, not here, not in Bormio. And Michele Boscacci finishes in third for Italy. 38 seconds behind a very, very strong French team.
Yes, I was expecting also this last transition, and I was like, let's see on this last transition, but we didn't have it. It was like that. I think that Caroline Ulrich and Thomas Bussard right now are happy and deceived, and Thomas will think a bit about it. But they did a really good race. They are both very young. We know their potential, and they will have many other opportunities.
Andy, that is Jakub Sjarnik there for Slovakia. We just saw Andy Meyer heading off on the right, on the left of our screen. So it looks like the Austrian team will take 4th place, all being well. And a great start to the event here in Bormio, the first ever mixed relay test event for the Olympics for Milano Cortina. There is Herman De Bortolis of Italy.
L'arrivo quindi di Andy Meyer in coppia con Sara Dreyer, 4º posto per l'Austria.
And we see Robin Galindo in the screen on the foot part. Robin Galindo, that we are very used to see him also doing very good performances on the sprint race, and we see now him here on the relay.
Indeed, racing with Luna Dupont. And there we have Griffin Briley of the United States, I believe. Yes. Beg your pardon, that was David Sinclair. Is David Sinclair? As the rest of the racers come down, 12 teams in the B final, 12 in the A. The American men had some really great qualifying times, actually. I mentioned Griffin Briley, even though that wasn't him we saw there. But he had a very good qualifying time, and in fact won the men's 19 to 36 qualifying sprint race yesterday. As they're all coming across the line now. Sarah Dry there, helping Andy Meyer with his skis. Or boots, or something.
That's teamwork.
Exactly.
Bravissimi, bravi Noemi e Herman De Bortolis, ci apprestiamo quasi alla conclusione di questa finale B.
And the great thing about the relay format and the way it's been set out is that while we now, we see athletes, great and experienced athletes, Célia Perrier-Pessé, Thomas Bussard, Caroline Ulrich, we also, those athletes perhaps with a little bit less experience and the countries with a little bit less in way of support, still being able to race on the same platform.
Yes, I think that this is super important for the development of the sport, to have for these smaller countries to say so. I don't think that this is the best word, but just to say so, to have the opportunity to run with or to race in the same race as these top athletes, because it's they can take a lot of learnings. They can also take a lot of reference of where they are right now and what do they need to do to improve and how far they are from the very best top athletes. So in a relay like that, that we had Alba de Silvestro and Michele Boscacci that have been in podiums of relay race, that we have had Caroline Ulrich and Thomas Bussard that won the last World Cup in relay. It's a really good reference for these countries to learn and to have these references on how far they are and what do they need to do to improve. So it's really, really good for the development of the sport.
Indeed, and that was Herman Spanring finishing there for Slovenia, his teammate there, Ria Kolbel, who used to race for the United States, chatting there to Kelly Wolf, former teammate, and shows the great camaraderie here, because it is a small sport still, growing hugely and very excitingly, but great to see that. 362 days to go. Oh dear, I don't think the person who's in charge of that sign is on it, because it was 362 days to go yesterday. So maybe they've had a lie-in on a Sunday. But that's it, 360 something days to go until we are back here in Bormio to race for the Olympic Games. So, Mireia, a great race for the B final. What have we seen?
Yes, really great, really great. We have had super strong teams that could be on the final A and even fight for a win on the final A. We have seen a really close battle between Celia and the French team, Celia and Pablo, and Caroline and Thomas Bouchard, the French and the Swiss team. Also the Italian team, Michele Boscacci and Alba de Silvestro, very close to them, only at the very end at 38 seconds. So we have seen a very intense battle between these countries. We have seen different overpassings between the Swiss and the French team. On the last lap between Pablo and Thomas Bouchard, we saw Thomas passing Pablo and Pablo passing Thomas. So we have had a lot of excitement until the very end.
Indeed, and I think a particularly great race for Pablo Giner, with probably the least experience of the more experienced teams, and really great to see him, as you say, take advantage of Thomas Bouchard's slight slip there that we just saw, just that inability to get his skins on when it really counted, and a great race from the French. So there we have it, the results of the B race. France 2 ahead of Switzerland 2, Italy 2, Austria 2, Slovakia, Italy, China, France, the United States, 2 teams together there, China and Slovenia. In a very fast time of just under 29 minutes for the team of Celia Pese and Pablo Giner, which bodes for an exceptionally fast time when it comes to the A final, which is coming up in about 20 minutes or so.
Yes, we've seen the first time here, around 28 minutes. Gay final, it's gonna be very fast.
Because the fastest, well, obviously it's the fastest combined times in qualification that put the teams through to the whichever, whether it's the A final, the B final, or not qualified at all. And of course, the fastest men and women are individually in the next final, in the A final. But we did have some very fast qualified athletes here, and exciting to see. So coming up in the next while, we are going to be going to the A final, which will take place at 11:20 local time here in Italy. We are at the 5th of the ISMF World Cup for 2025. It's the 3rd mixed relay of the season, and it is also the very, very first Olympic test event for the mixed relay event. We had the sprint race yesterday, which was just fantastic. And here we have, that is Ilona Januszczyk of Poland, warming up, just sitting there, turning those legs over, trying to keep warm, and it doesn't look like it's particularly cold, but keeping those muscles warm, very important, Mireia.
Yeah, she looks very relaxed to be racing now, really. Yeah, so from the last years, almost all teams have implemented the bike in the sprint and relay races, and it's a way to keep the muscles warm very close to the start.
And they're a very, very vitally important job. Also preparing the skins, because it's quite a challenge to make sure, as we saw there, Thomas Bouchard having some trouble with his skins. It looked to me like they just weren't sticking. Maybe they got some snow on them, they were wet, but absolutely vital to have those managed properly.
Yeah, it was a pity, but this is things that sometimes can happen on a race, and even more on a relay race, that per lap you have to put the skins 2 times. It's a little bit of a pity because he was doing a really good second lap, but it is what it is. It happens, and it happens to him, and it happens to everyone. So it's experience, and for sure he will manage next time better.
Il pubblico c'è. Sì che c'è.
Indeed.
Però abbiamo bisogno del
What a final B we have. France takes the win ahead of Switzerland and Italy. And we'll let the images speak for themselves for a minute or so.
Cristina, ci siamo per il gran finale.
Sono le arachidi per l'amplitudine.
Bormio sets the very beautiful stage for the 5th ISMF World Cup of the 2025 season. Today is not only the 3rd mixed relay of the season, however, but the first ever mixed relay Olympic test event for Milano Cortina 2026. Yesterday's sprint winners Emily Harper France and Oriol Cardona Coll of Spain are both through to the A final with their teammates and will be hoping to make it a double victory for their respective nations. I'm Katie Friend, and I will be joined shortly by Emilia Miro, looking at this beautifully put together mixed relay course here in the upper Valtellina Valley in Lombardy, very close to the Swiss border. Many famous and experienced Italian athletes come from this part of the world, and the weather today is pretty much perfect. Not too cold, not too warm, and the snow is in great condition. You can see people working tirelessly to make sure that it is in absolutely cracking nick. It was quite chilly when we started qualifications this morning, but the sun has now hit the slopes, and it is a gorgeous day to be here in the Alps in Italy. The course itself, 135 meters of vertical, starting at an altitude of 1,215, and the highest point is 1,295. It's 1.31 kilometers in length, making it a pretty tasty course. We've seen Final B. We are waiting for Final A to happen very shortly. And I am joined in the studio by Mireia Miró, former Spanish competitor and 2-time world champion. Hello, Mireia.
Hi, Katie. How are you doing?
All good, thank you. Very excited to see this A final. Just going to explain a little bit about what happens. A team of 1 man and 1 woman competing for the same country. Female athletes take the start first, and each athlete does 2 ascents, 2 descents, and a foot part included in the uphill. Lots of transitions involved in this mixed relay. They tag their teammate with skis on. They have to touch a part of their body or their backpack. And the male athletes always do the last lap. Each lap takes around about 7-ish minutes. We've seen very fast times today, around about 6 for the men, meaning it'll be all over in around about half an hour. And Mireia, here we are, final A. It's all exciting. You can see the jiggling, partly to keep warm, partly from the adrenaline and the nerves. What will they be feeling right now?
Well, right now I think that it's a bit of nerves. I'm pretty sure, but excitement to race. I think that this is a very beautiful moment, the pre-start, just before the start, and this feeling of excitement to be racing.
Indeed, we're seeing some very well-known faces there. That's Tove Alexandersson of Sweden, multi-time ski orienteering world champion. Made the switch to SkiMo a few years ago. Ilona Janishik there of Poland. And 12 teams in the final A. As always, and the rules state that after qualification into the final A may only go one team per country, so we get a really exciting spread. We've already seen this morning, today, the B final, but here we have Ida Valdal and Hans Inge Klette of Norway. Julia Murada and Nicolo Canclini will be getting the biggest cheers today, both very local to this part of the world. From Switzerland, Marianne Faton and Robin Bussard. Tatiana Paller and Finn Hirsch of Germany. 11 races they've done together, and here one of the couples to beat, one of the teams to beat, Emily Harrop and Thibaut Anselme, current world champion, former European champions, followed by the current European champions, Ariel Cardona-Coll and Ana Alonso Rodriguez of Spain, hoping to beat their best ever place of second place from Austria, Johanna Hiemer and Paul Verbniak. Emma Cook-Clark and Aaron Robson of Canada. Emma did a very fast qualifying time. Ivona Janishik and Jan Elandkowski of Poland. Jizhen Jidan and Bouluer of China. Cameron Smith and Jessie Young of the United States. We mentioned them before, but here she is, Tove Alexandersson, with a brand new teammate, Jyrker Leisel, also a former ski orienteering world champion. And wow, what a lineup, Mireia.
Yes, we have a very strong lineup today. It's going to be very exciting to watch.
Here we are, less than 2 minutes to the start of the final.
2 minutes to the start, says Christine Cavigné, course commentator, course speaker. As they line up here, Emily Harrop bouncing on the far right there of the start of the lineup. Marianne Faton in the blue and white helmet. Ida Valdal of Norway, and next to her, then it is Julia Murada, Tatiana Paller, and I think Ana Alonso Rodriguez on the far right, the far left. That is your lineup for the women in the front line. And we are in the A final for the first ever mixed relay test event for the Olympics for Milano Cortina. And a wide spread of countries here, from those that we know to those that we are just learning about.
Seconds to the start, silence please.
Thank you, Mark. Set.
That's it. The women have started their first leg. It must be warm. Emily Harrop has her sleeves rolled up, ready for hard work up this course, as does Marianne Faton, as they take off right near the front. And Tatiana Paller making a good bid for the start there alongside Anna Alonso. Tove Alexanderson coming up fast, though, on the inside.
What a start for these ladies. We have had very fast qualifications. We have had a very fast final B. And these ladies in the final A, they are ready to do a super fast time today.
Indeed they are, and I think that was maybe Ivona Janishik, a bit of a catching up there. Oh no, that's Jessie Young of the United States. A bit of catching up to do there, which is exhausting, that is for sure. And we have a breakaway.
I think from Tove, if I'm not wrong, Tove Alexanderson from Sweden.
It is. Normally you can spot the yellow a mile away, but the angle of the drone and the sun making that a bit difficult. But yes, Tove Alexanderson. Now, one of the reasons I imagine she's doing this, she has a very, very brand new to SkiMo teammate in order to try and qualify Sweden for the mixed relay for the Olympics next year. And as we know, it is important, if you have a reasonable difference, is to give that teammate as much of an advantage as possible.
Yes, totally. Tove has an incredible physique, and we can see it now. The gap she's opening is like, what are you doing, Tove? What are you doing here? She has an incredible physique, and for sure that she wants to give the very, very best, because her teammate it's new to the sport, so the biggest the gap she can give, the better the teammate will be able to do also. Less pressure, a little bit like of less pressure.
Exactly. And the rest of the pack, very much in formation here. It's a little bit like cycling. We have a breakaway and we have the peloton behind. They probably know each other's strengths pretty well at this stage. Emily Harrop we usually see out in front straight away, but there she is tucked in with Marianne Faton, with Johanna Himmer, Tatiana Paller, and the other very, very strong athletes.
Yes, it's not usual that we see the group this packed. At this point of the relay, we start already to see some difference. Here we see Tove that is opening a super big gap. It's such a big pleasure to see her racing with this super strength. But then the pack is quite together, so we will see here the transitions will be very important. As always on the short format races, as the sprint or the relays, transitions are very key. So we will see here that in the first transition they will arrive all very together, and it will be quite key, the transition and how do they position for the first downhill.
And it's Marianne Faton, Ivona Janishik, and Anna Alonso and Emily Harrop in there first. Johanna Himmer of Austria just behind, and it's Switzerland out ahead of France, Spain, Poland, and Austria. This is in fact actually only Tove Alexanderson's second ever mixed relay. She did the very first one with Peter Engdahl in the European Championships in Boitaul, and a bit of a wobble there, but she is a very experienced athlete. She's probably, she's an exceptional athlete, as we know from her ski orienteering experience, but she had a couple of seasons where she was absolutely firing on all cylinders, giving Axel Gachet-Molleret a big run for her money in the individuals. So really exciting, as you say, to see her back here.
Yes, it's really exciting. We know that it's maybe not the best disciplines for Tove, as on the transitions and downhills. Maybe she's not as comfortable as other athletes like Anna Alonso, Emily Harrop, Marianne Faton, that are really experienced. And we can see it right now that the fast transition they did, and that Tove lost this gap she had. It's Tove, then Marianne Faton, then Anna Alonso, then Emily Harrop. So let's see, because I think that for Tove it's really great to be able to compete on such races right now, to gain more experience and to be able to gain experiences also in these transitions under so high pressure. that you have to be very clean and very fast. And I think that here Tove has a lot of room of improvement. She has the capacity to do it, and that she can improve a lot. And we see her that already she's super strong. Once she managed to do a little bit better transitions, she will be also in these short disciplines very, very dangerous, more than she is already now.
Yeah, because she's opened that gap, not quite as big, but she has opened it up again. Ana Alonso of Spain behind her, Marianne Faton and Emily Harrop. She's making those exceptionally speedy and experienced athletes look a little slow today, actually.
Yes, and the three of them, Ana Alonso, Marianne Faton, Emily Harrop, they are used to win relay races. They are very used to be there in front. But yeah, the three of them are going very, very strong also, very close to Tove actually. And I think that the race at the end of the day will be between these three countries, like fighting for the win, or at least it seems so right now. As we were saying, Sweden, the Tove's teammate is not as experienced as the other one. So let's see how the race goes.
Ana Alonso takes off after Tove Alexandersson, but it's really very close for the following three. Not something we see very often, the three of them so close together, but all exceptionally strong athletes. Ana Alonso in second, followed by Marianne Faton and Emily Harrop. All very strong skiers as well. So, and a bit of a battle there. Tove took just a bit longer to get those. She's still not got those skis clicked in. Ana Alonso ahead of Marianne Faton, Tove Alexandersson, Emily Harrop, who I would not want breathing down my neck. And indeed, she makes a break for it to try and overtake, and does overtake Tove Alexandersson. So it is now Ana Alonso ahead of Marianne Faton, Emily Harrop, and Tove Alexandersson as they come down into this first transition zone to meet their male counterparts.
And Alonso, that this last weekend and this weekend she has been on a exceptional shape. We see her really, really good, giving a battle, having this battle with Marianne Faton and Emily Harrop. And Emily Harrop on the other side, this weekend I'm seeing her a little bit more human. Marianne Faton giving her problems also on the sprint yesterday, Caroline Ulrich too, so it's going to be very close between all of them.
Talking of human though, that was a bit of a superhuman transition there from Emily Harrop, handing over there to Thibaut Anselmet, her regular partner, as Robin Bussard takes off ahead of Oriol Cardona-Coll and Thibaut Anselmet. Not two people I would want right behind me, that's for sure.
That's for sure for me too. Oriol Cardona has won already many relay races. Thibaut Anselmet also, I think that's 4 for Oriol and 5 for Thibaut, correct me if I'm wrong. But they are very experienced athletes on the relay race.
Your statistics are absolutely spot on. Emily Harrop and Thibaut Anselmet, in fact, they have never won without the other. So they've only ever won when they've been racing with each other. And Ana Alonso and Oriol Cardona-Coll, they only have a slight difference in that Oriol has also won alongside Marta Garcia. But really, in terms of their experience in this race, they are absolutely up there with the best. Ivona Janoušek showing us exactly how utterly exhausting this race is, because it is not a sprint, but it has the same elements of the sprint, only you just have to add twice the amount of time. Robin Bussard here creating a little bit of a gap as Cameron Smith of the United States puts the foot down and gets motoring up that hill as he races with Jessie Young.
I'm happy that we see this footage from Ivona on the arrival, because they make it seem so easy, like they make it seem so go up so light, so fast, so strong, that it's also good to see the other side when they arrive, that they are really tired of this effort.
Absolutely. So the first leading two there, Robin Bussard and Oriol Cardona-Coll, got a little bit of a jog on. Thibaut Anselmet just getting his jog on now, but seems to be holding on to the coattails, as they say, of Oriol Cardona Call as they come up here. But we say it all the time, he's never one for a fast start, Thibaut Anselmet.
No, exactly. Thibaut is this kind of athlete. So there are different athletes, some that have a very strong start, and Thibaut has not a super strong start, but he has a really good race management, effort management, and usually he finishes super strong. So both in a sprint and on the relay. So for sure it's one to have in mind, and he can be dangerous, very dangerous on this second uphill.
But Robin Bussard there keeping a little gap, shall we say, not insurmountable by any stretch of the imagination, which is being a little bit shortened, if our camera angles are telling us the truth, by Oriol Cardona Call. That corner seems to be making everybody a little bit wobbly, shall we say, for want of a more technical term. Oriol Cardona Call's transition, I mean, just amazing.
Yes, they arrive to that corner with very high speed from the downhill, because the downhill allows to take a good speed. So we see a bit bubbly there for many athletes when they arrive to this last corner before the transition.
And super efficient transition there by Oriol Cardona Call, who takes off and takes over from Robin Bussard's lead. Thibaut Anselmet approximately, I would say, almost the same distance behind. And it is still Spain, Switzerland, France. What is really interesting with the Swiss teams, I find, is that they have all raced with so many different people. And there is Marianne Faton, his current teammate. And they were third together in Andorra this year. Marianne Faton was keeping warm. Emily Harrop feeling like it's time to go to the transition point. Maybe go the right way, Emily. Now this is his superpower.
Totally. Oriol is known to be very strong on the foot part. As we see, he jumps the step 2 by 2. It's incredible to see Oriol on the foot part. He makes like big gaps with the other competitors. And besides, he's also doing really good transitions. We saw it just before, we saw it now. This transition here that they are doing of putting skis on again, it's very difficult because you have to put the boot inside the binding, and it's very difficult to do at a high heart rate, and for Oriol was very fast, very clean.
An unusual stopping point there for him though, but he's managed to carry it off and has come right from the back of the transition zone and has gone right through his two main rivals there, Robin Bussard and Thibaut Anselmet, who were more or less neck and neck, as he comes down to take that little jump. Has opened up quite a gap there.
Yes, he has opened quite a gap. I wasn't expecting that. He has done a really good relay, managing really well his strength on the transition on the foot part, and for sure also on the uphill, but we saw him on the first uphill more conservative, and on the second uphill of the relay really passing onto this attack mode, where he has been able to position first and open gap with the competitors.
And he hands over to Ana Alonso, and she is off with a gap of how much we will soon see, but Marianne Faton and Emily Harrop looking a little impatient as Robin Bussard seems to have had a bit of a wobble, as Thibaut Anselmet 13 seconds behind his competitor, hands over to his teammate Emily Harrop, and Marianne Faton a good 6 seconds behind takes over from Robin Bussard. A bit of a wobble there perhaps in transition from Robin Bussard, Mireia.
Yes, it's so difficult in the relays to to close the gaps, but at the same time, it's very easy to lose some seconds here and there that then penalize you a lot. And maybe, I don't know what have happened to Robin Boussard. Maybe it's in a transition. Maybe he lacked a bit of strength on this last final part. But yeah, he lost some precious seconds that they are very difficult to regain and at the same time are very easy to lose.
And I think we can now see Emily Harrop has gone into full-on race mode. Not that she wasn't before, but this is, you can see by the way she's moving that she is absolutely determined to make up that gap.
Yes, we can see it on the, as you say, it's incredible because by only seeing the body posture and the body gestures, we can see that she's in like a very fast mode.
She's
and
in
let's see
hunting
now,
mode.
Exactly. I was going to say attack mode, but
Same.
So let's see now. It's the second lap for the women. Second lap for the women. It's the last lap for them. So now it's the time to give the all. And Emily knows that their possibilities to win lays on her round here. If she's able to close the gap with Ana Alonso and give a good relay to Thibaut Selmet or not, because Uriol is a very, very strong contender too.
Because when I think of mixed relay, I think of these two teams. I think of Ana Alonso with Oriol Cardona and Emily Harrop with Thibaut Selmet. So it really is, you know, they've both been European champions. Emily and Thibaut are current world champions. It's absolutely all to play for. And we're really only 10 days away from the World Championships. There's a lot hanging in the sort of the psychological part of this race as well.
Yes, as you say, at only 10 days from the World Championships, this World Cup, it doesn't only give perspective on next year track on the Olympics, but also it gives perspective on how everyone is for the World Championships, because they are 10 days away, and here you can already have a really good idea. Ana Alonso is getting in more and more shape. Last World Cup and this World Cup, she has done a step forward. Emily Harrop, also seeing her, she's been doing an incredible season all along, but right now this World Cup is very key for the World Championships to know where is everyone and the possibilities on each race.
Indeed, as she has closed the gap from 10 down to 2.5. Making sure those skins are properly tucked away. And she takes off after Ana Alonso. It's Emily Harrop of France behind Ana Alonso. As we see another shot there of Cameron Smith, making sure all the skins are in the right place.
On the downhill, Spain and France, scia molto bene anche Ana Alonso in discesa.
And I think that is Ana Alonso, yeah. She's coming in to transition. Emily Harrop lost a second there, but it's only a second. Anything can happen, and you can lose that in transition, as we saw in with Thomas Bussard in the B final.
Yeah, but here we see Ana Alonso, exactly. Ana Alonso has done a very, very fast transition here. Let's see now the gap, but I think that it will be a bit more when from when they just arrived from the downhill.
Indeed, and Ana Alonso looking strong, very strong, as Emily Harrop and Marianne Faton come up the diamonds behind her. Marianne Faton a little bit behind now. Ana Alonso looking more comfortable, I would say. Emily Harrop starting to breathe quite hard with her epic hunting effort.
Yes, and Alonso, as I was saying just before, she has done a step forward in terms of shape from this. We have seen it this last weekend and this one. She's in a really good shape right now, and we can see it here that she's managing the effort really well. Emily Harrop, we see her like suffering and fighting the very all she has at this end of this relay race. And Anna Alonso doing again a superb transition. Also, Emily Harrop. Anna is doing a really, really good and complete relay race today.
Indeed, and at the back of our screens on the right-hand side there, we see Marianne Faton of Switzerland holding on to third place, with quite a big gap behind her by the looks of things.
Yeah, the gap is opening. Marianne Faton is having a bit more difficulty to keep up with Anna and Emily. Anna and Emily, they are doing at an insane pace. I want to see the time gap they are doing, when they arrive to the finish line. But they are doing an insane race, and Marianne Faton that is having a bit more difficulty following these two beasts that we have today here.
Yeah, and we just saw at the top of there, we finally saw Anna Alonso's teeth gritted in effort as she realized how close Emily Harrop was, and she's got a 4.5 second lead as she heads down here to hand over for the final time. And it will be up to Thibaut Anselmet to see if he can go into attack mode behind Oriol Cardona-Coll as they come into the final transition. And it will need to be very fast and swift and efficient from both of them.
Yes, now every second is precious, so every second counts. So they both know it, and it's a pressure they have to handle, and it's not easy to handle because it's very easy to make a mistake as more pressure you have, but they are both very experienced athletes. And now we have also Marianne Faton arriving to the change, and Anna Alonso giving the relay to Oriol Cardona in first.
Emily Harrop giving everything, and Thibaut Anselmet takes off 8 seconds after Oriol Cardona-Coll, and we've said it before, that can be everything and nothing. So we will wait to see how Thibaut Anselmet, he will have to absolutely put in an effort, which hopefully will be warmed up enough to do and to get going, as Robin Bussard, the 24-second lead. We're looking at a similar split in the between first and second and third as we saw in the B final, actually. Very similar in terms of how it's playing out.
Yes, totally. The countries were not the same because on the B final it was Switzerland and France for the first place, and then we had Italy, and here it is Spain and France, and we have Switzerland on third. And it seems that everything is going to come down to this for the win, to these two first teams, Spain and France, Oriol and Thibaut, that both of them are very used already to win relay World Cups.
And there the handover from Johanna Hiemert to Paul Verbniak. They are in fourth, but unusual to see them. They have over a minute's gap between them and the leading team. So really only about 30 seconds or so, 35 seconds between them and third. But that's quite a gap between the top three and the fourth place.
Yeah, it's quite a gap, and 30 seconds is quite a lot on such a fast race. Let's see. We are used to see them being also fighting for the podium. Today, I think if nothing happens, it's going to be much more difficult for them.
As we see Nicola Canclini, local boy, followed there by Finn Hirsch of Germany. Nicola Canclini racing with Giulia Murada, Finn Hirsch with Tatiana Paller, and Oriol Cardona-Coll maintaining, if not widening even, that gap. Thibaut Anselmet just to the right of our screens there. And Robin Bussard is catching him, closing that gap to second place. And here he goes again at the back of the transition zone. That is so unusual.
Yes, it's unusual. Usually it's easier to get in front as it's a more clean exit, but as he was alone and there's not many people now on the transition that could be with him, maybe he chose to stop at the back because without the skins you go faster to go out. Yeah, we saw Oriol having some problems putting the skins on the suit. He didn't do a very fast transition, but I think that he had enough gap to really to maintain it with Thibaut Anselme and Robin Boussard.
And there he is. I think he had 14 seconds at the last transition. Robin Boussard had closed the gap between himself and Thibaut Anselme.
And this one, yes, was very fast from Oriol. It was incredibly fast, putting the skins on. So let's see now the gap. But Oriol, he has done, I mean, an incredibly fast transition. I'm just like still in shock.
Thibaut Anselme takes off out of transition, just gone off our screens. Oriol Cardona call, making this look ridiculously easy, like a little jog in the park.
I think that we would put a little bit more time to do it. Huh?
There we see Thibaut Anselme at the top of our screens, a good gap now. It was 13 seconds at the last transition, and as you say, Oriol's transition was lightning quick, which will have gained him some more time. And now he's into the bit where he really is so strong.
I think that he had a little bit of the skis are not perfectly. Let's see now as he takes off the skis off the back. Yes, easy. From my perspective, I was seeing the skis moving a bit, like if they were not super well put, but he has had no problems.
Great, and Thibaut Anselme putting those long legs to use, leaping up the stairs as well. Looks like he had reopened that gap again between himself and Robin Boussard. As Oriol Cardona call, looking rather casual for a man who's about to win, all being well, a World Cup race.
This is Oriol.
Oh yes, a good nearly 19 seconds. An immaculately managed race by the Spanish team there, as Paul Verbniak for Austria comes up in fourth. Here comes Oriol Cardona call to be greeted by Ana Alonso for their 5th win together out of 10 races. That's a 50% success rate, as Thibaut Anselme comes down to meet Emily Harrop. It really only was going to be those two teams, probably in the top 2 spots. Marianne Faton comes out to wait for Thomas Boussard, but it is Spain and France who take the top spots in the final A here in Bormio for the Olympic mixed relay test event, as Robin Boussard looking absolutely done and a little bit of a resigned shrug. A big hug from Marianne Faton, holding him up, in fact. And well done. Switzerland take 3rd place. Probably what we would have expected from this final A, Mireia.
Yes, but we never know until it is done. For sure, I was expecting a big fight between Spain, France, Switzerland, and Austria. These are teams that have already demonstrated through, not only through the season, but through the years, that they are always fighting for this sprint, for this relay race. Sorry, and for sure between France and Spain even more.
Indeed, and I think I've just heard the course commentator say that the Austrian team of Johanna Himmer and Paul Verbniak have just taken 4th place, which will be their 6th 4th place after 10 races together. Their highest is a 2nd. They've had 2 second places. still to make that top spot. And there is Finn Hirsch in 5th for Germany with Tatjana Paller. They have raced 12 races together now. As the Chinese team of Yujian Tudan and Luar Bu take 6th. That is that's their highest position. That's the Chinese team's highest position ever. They have not been higher than 7th before. Nicola Canclini looking absolutely, completely and utterly spent in 8th. Norway with Ida Valdal and Hansing Akleta in 7th. The second, the Italian team, as we saw, in 8th. And there is our newest ski mountaineer on the block, Jerker Leisel of Sweden. Coming in to meet Tove Alexanderson to take 9th place. Well done to him, congratulations. I think that is his first, certainly his first relay, his first World Cup race within this particular sport. Fantastic to see that. Ivona Januszczyk and oh, someone's very excited. Yeah. Ivona Januszczyk and Jan Elentkovsky in. Coming in, I think Emma Cook-Clark, Aaron Robson, and then Jessie Young and Cameron Smith of Canada and the United States, respectively. As Jessie Young helps Cameron Smith get his skis off. It's the North American fraternity there. Spain takes the win with Oriol Cardona Coll and Ana Alonso ahead of France, Switzerland with Thibaut Anselme and Emily Harrop, Romain Bussard and Marianne Faton with Austria, Germany, China, Norway, Italy, Sweden, USA, Poland and Canada making up the final A here in Bormio. What an incredible race that was. Very, very exciting. Still quite big gaps to be seen between the more experienced nations and those that are up and coming, but still a long way to go before the Olympics. There is Aaron Robson of Canada taking a well-earned rest. And so a really great final there, Mireia. And some of the things that we kind of can talk about in the relay, I'm interested to know teammates, because we're starting to see things happening. We've seen, here is the replay of this. We've talked about the discrepancy of having an extremely strong, relative to the rest of the field, teammate. Other than the strength and the discipline and the efficiency, what makes for a good team? Why is it so important to get this right?
The team is much more than just putting together the two strongest. I think that the team is something you also build, the confidence between one another, and we have seen this on different occasions. So confidence between teammates is very important too.
there we have Trudy, who is the mascot here, and who everybody on the podium is taking home with them. A beautiful little, I think it looks like a marmot to me, I suspect, given that nature, that part of the world. So you were just saying, Mireia, you got slightly drowned out by the music there in the replay. It's good to have a good rapport, even though they're not racing together as in a traditional team race. So it's not just the effective, the efficient transitions, but really good to have a good rapport, understand and have confidence in your teammate.
Yes, totally, totally. So what I was saying is that a team is not only putting the two strongest together, it's about building this confidence between one another, because this sometimes many times can amplify your performances. If you trust your teammate, if you have confidence, the performance is always better.
And we sort of touched on it lightly during the racing, but the strategies at this stage, given a year to the Olympics, 10 days to the World Championships, what are the teams starting to do, in your opinion?
I think that this season, we are starting to see more and more the same teams. I think that on previous seasons we were seeing much more team changing, testing, and all that. And this season, I have the feeling that for the first season, we are seeing that the teams are kind of solidifying and getting ready for next year.
And next week, in fact. Indeed. And so there we have Emily Harrapin, Thibaut Anselmet waiting for the podium ceremony. We will be going to that very shortly. But Emily Harrap, who we see there on the screen, talked yesterday about the importance of having seen the track that they would race the sprint on. The same as will now be for the mixed relay. They've seen it, they've raced it, they've actually felt it with the blood pumping in their veins. How important will that be for them, and how much will visualization of that help them in the year to come?
Wow, it makes a lot of difference. So first of all, because you can train better when you have done the track, when you know the track, you can adapt your trainings better to it. And then also because in your mind you already know how it is to handle that effort in that track, and you can really work much more on it from the mental side, visualizing and managing the effort there.
Indeed. And we're getting lots of great, really behind the scenes chat, sort of views today. United States team there, and I think we're going to shortly have another replay, but just having a little break there, sorry, to just check something. My apologies. So we've seen the final A, and we've talked about the teams, the strategy, and so on. But what is quite interesting is, because of this ability to, this necessity to have only one team per nation in the final, there's quite a big gap. And in some ways, it's excellent, it's awesome, because that's how these teams get the experience, but also in some ways it shows still the gap between the developing nations in the sport.
I think that right now we see more gap because the sport, and even more the relay race is developing. It's the third year we have relay race on the World Cup circuit, but it's a gap that year by year, race by race, will be less and less and less, because the teams are progressing. And I think that it's good for the development of the sport to have one team of each nation on the final A only.
Indeed. Seems to be a great atmosphere down there at the finish line. Everybody's having fun, really nice to see all the nations mixing. And as we've said before, it's the development of the sport into having this quite structured areas with tents for the teams. I mean, none of that was happening when you were racing, was it? It was all sort of everybody just kind of finding a spot in the warm-up zone.
Exactly, exactly. It has changed a lot, and even more with these short disciplines, the sprint and the relay, that there's a lot happening on the same place, but it has totally changed for sure.
It has, and it's great. And today we saw 124 athletes on the start line. I think yesterday it was something like 160 something. It's just really fantastic to see. In fact, it was more than that. It was 190 something. To see the explosion of the sport as it goes to the Olympics. A thrilling final here in Bormio for the ski mountaineering mixed relay, the third of the season and the first ever mixed relay Olympic test event. It was victory for Spain ahead of France and Switzerland, and I think we're going now to the podium ceremony. Christine Cavanier, the course speaker, doing a great job there, corralling everybody. It's a long, long day for the course speakers, but they do such an amazing job of keeping the atmosphere going, keeping everybody in the right place at the right time. Third place for Switzerland with Marianne Fatin and Robin Bussard. 3 weeks ago we saw his twin, Thomas Bussard, on the top step, and now it is Robin's turn to be on the podium alongside Marianne Fatin. Second place for France with Emily Harrop and Thibaut Anselmet. Current world champions, they will be hoping to hang on to that in Switzerland in a few weeks' time, in a few days' time, about 10 days' time. The current European champions for Spain, Ana Alonso Rodriguez, Oriol Cardona Coll, take the win here at Bormio for the test event for the Olympics for Milano Cortina 2026. And a very, very experienced lineup there on the podium here in Bormio. Not much that between them they haven't won or stood on the podium for. Across nearly all of the disciplines. And yesterday, Oriol Cardona Coll was saying that he hopes that the young athletes would just be a little bit patient for the next year, because he's feeling his age by the sounds of things at his grand old age of 30. But let's hear from him now with, oh, not quite yet perhaps, but it's interesting to hear that at 30 he is waiting for the, he's feeling the pressure from these younger athletes, Mireia.
Yes, totally, totally. Spain in this case has a very strong young team, and I think that Oriol uses it for also like a motivation, I think, because they train together, so he can motivate from the youth.
Spain with Ana Alonso and Oriol Cardona winning the test event in Bormio. I think that the smiles on your face tell everything of this great race. Ana.
Yes, we are super happy with our win. It's the second victory on this season in the Olympic this event. So for us, I think that it's super important to perform well in this track. And yes, we are very happy 1 week before the World Champs. So we will see if we can repeat this result.
Oriol, it was not easy because Robin Bussard and Thibaut Anselmet are very strong, but you take the lead from the first part until the end, and then it was great, your success here.
Yeah, they were pushing really hard. It's been a really tough battle, but today I feel really strong the whole day, the whole race. So I am really happy about the shape and the performance today. And with Anna, I think we did a really good race. And yeah, hopefully in the next 10 days we will be in the same shape.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Anna and Oriol.
So Oriol Cardona-Coll takes his second win of the weekend, a sprint winner yesterday, and the mixed relay winner today with Ana Alonso. And it has been a magnificent day of racing and a great insight into what we're going to see next year, Mireia. Really, really, I think everybody's pretty hyped for a year's time.
Yes, I think so. I think so. The track looks super beautiful. They've put a lot of work into it, and we have had an amazing weekend yesterday with the sprint, today with the relay. Teams are growing and more being more and more competitive.
And here are the standings for the day. A win for Spain ahead of Switzerland and France in an exciting, exciting race. And in the third mixed relay race of the season, there are 5 in total, and there will be, but there will only be one Olympic test event, and that was the top 3 that we had today. Really, really very exciting racing.
Non so se prima mettere questo e poi mettere quello, comunque the number one is number one. It's also on your skis.
Yes, it's my ski number 1, and the new hashtag of Cardoni is faster always.
And that wraps up the ISMF World Cup event here in Bormio. A high intensity race indeed today, from start to finish, with the teams pushing the pace and executing precision transitions under masses of pressure. The pressure of being in an Olympic qualifying year and under the spotlight here at Bormio for the test event. They have seen what the course will look like in less than a year's time and have something to work towards. Thanks for joining us. There's plenty more ski mountaineering action ahead this season. Stay tuned, but for now, from Bormio, bye-bye.